So Oregon has lost some guys from this defense, is losing guys to eligibility. Derek Harmon declared for the draft. Jordan James declared for the draft from the offensive side of the ball. But Bryce Boettcher, who's been drafted into Major League Baseball, is back for 2025. He announces it late last night. Oregon loves doing this, apparently. I think they kind of stagger the announcements to try and dominate the news cycle for the day. It's very strategic. Dan gives off the vibe of somebody that is thinking about how to do those things, or at least he has people that think about how to do those things. So Bryce Boettcher is back. Oregon's leading tackler, gets another year of eligibility somehow, somewhat. I don't know all the details about how that happened, but frankly, don't care that much. Bryce Boettcher being back is a very good thing. I know Oregon fans in the wake of the Ohio State game were looking at two position groups in particular, the safeties and the linebackers, and saying, boy, it feels like Oregon needs more there, and they need more size on the outside. I got news for you. I don't know that anybody can actually stop Jeremiah Smith, but hey, Texas is going to try. But I agree, you can get more production out of the safety room. I also agree, Oregon's linebackers didn't always play great this year. Bryce Boettcher did. He was the highest rated per Pro Football Focus. I should just say according to Pro Football Focus to make it easier on myself, but anyway, all season long. And Lanning has praised him a lot because he's been quite good. And Boettcher has just showed up, worked hard. Eugene kid, he's like he is an incredibly old school college football player in that sense. So too is Jordan James, by the way. Just a quick side note. There is this notion that old school recruiting doesn't matter as much as all portal and kids don't, it doesn't feel the same. I agree. There are a lot of things that are different. There are still plenty of examples of traditional college football careers. Jordan James is one of them. Blue chip recruit, so it gets people's attention. Ooh, hey, he's 4-star running back. He plays some as a true freshman, has a legitimate role as the short yardage guy, excels in that role. Then, because of an injury, he has a bigger role the following season, shows the full potential, and then in his third year, he has the best season of his career, and now he's going to the NFL. Well, that's kind of how we want it to go. I think people get caught up in the negative examples, the Ryan Pelham situations of the world, who was a 4-star receiver that flipped from USC last year to the Ducks and wasn't able to work his way up the depth chart, and maybe because of the Malik Benson addition, ends up hitting the transfer portal. And unfortunately for him, his only impact at Oregon was fumbling the punt against Michigan. That's quite literally the most notable thing Ryan Pelham did since committing to Oregon. Flipping from USC, that's one thing. But I look at what Bryce Boettcher, just bringing it back for a moment before I get too sidetracked. I look at Bryce Boettcher and say, okay, him and Devon Jackson are now veterans together in that linebacker room. So you have continuity at that position. Jackson's a guy who has improved each of the last couple of seasons. So I've got every inclination to think he's going to be able to do that again. But having Bryce Boettcher there as your primary guy, I think that's a great situation to be in because he knows the defense, he's been around college football, and he's proven that he can produce. And if you were wanting more out of Oregon's linebacker room, at times so was I. But remember that Oregon's defense was only bad in a handful of games this year. Now, those were oftentimes against the best teams they played, but to say that it felt like they were way far away and not close to where they needed to be, no, they weren't where they need to be, but that doesn't mean they're super duper far away from it just because they had a couple of bad games against great teams. So I like having Boettcher back in there. I don't think that Oregon needs to go out in the portal and try to find a linebacker now. Certainly there are some available. I haven't seen or heard that the Ducks are tied to any in the portal. But if you've got Bryce Boettcher and Devon Jackson there, Oregon's recruited this position well over the last couple of years. I mean, at some point, one of those guys has got to be ready, right? Kamar Mathuti, Braden Platt, Jerry Mixon, Dylan Williams. They just go down the list. There were a lot of guys in that room that are going to be going into their second or third seasons of college football. It's not like they haven't been practicing or getting ready. It's not like they don't want to play. And as I'm recording the show, none of them have hit the transfer portal yet. So that would lead me to believe that Oregon is confident they can roll with the two veterans and two younger guys. Maybe they'll even mix them together. I'm sure they'll do plenty of mixing and matching. But Oregon, each of the last 3 years, has shown they play 4 linebackers in their 4-2-5 look. This year, it was Boettcher and Boettcher. And then the second unit most often was Devon Jackson and Justin Jacobs. Or sometimes they'd have Jackson and Boettcher. They rotate those guys through. But you got to have at least 4. So there are 2 sure things. Now you're looking for 2 more that you feel confident enough in playing. And I think by second or third season, when you got a handful of blue chip recruits, they're not all going to pan out, but at least 1 or 2 of them should be able to. So I feel fine about Oregon's linebacker room right now. And I'm just interested to see how that depth chart plays out. But I love having him back. Bryce Boettcher is just awesome. And not just because of the Washington game thing with the baseball bat. Like, that was awesome. That was some awesome Dan Lanning sicko kind of stuff. But yeah, I like having him back. So Ryan Pelham, though, hits the transfer portal, entered it with a do not contact tag. I didn't see, as I'm recording the show, where he ended up. USC certainly would be a candidate there. I don't know that it was a 1-to-1 replacement where Pelham sees Benson coming in and says, oh, I'm not going to be able to get there. Because those guys are different players. I think Pelham probably looked at DeCorian more coming in and thought, yeah, that combined with Justice Lowe and Jerrion Dickey's there, that's a lot of talent and experience, and I could probably go somewhere and see the field. But as it stands right now, Lanning has still not lost a starting player to the transfer portal. The closest thing, and I mean the closest thing, would be Amarion Winston, who wasn't a starter. He was a rotation guy. Jaden Moore was a rotation guy. But of the starting 22 that Oregon's had in the 3 seasons Dan Lanning's been the head coach, not a single starter has transferred out. That's a pretty darn impressive thing. I don't know that lasts forever, but I know that it's lasted to this point, and there are plenty of other major programs that have lost guys. Alabama had Seth McLaughlin transfer when Kalen DeBoer got there, and now that's different because there was a head coaching change, of course, but he transferred up to Ohio State, won the Remington Award, and then he gets hurt, and Ohio State's offensive line is really good anyway. But with regards to the NFL draft, which, Derek Harmon's declared for, and Birch is going to, and Tez is going to, and they're out of eligibility anyway, and Jordan James is going. There has not yet been an official announcement on Josh Connerly. I fully expect one. The deadline to declare for the draft is January 15th. That's a week from the day this show is airing. And the deadline to revoke that declaration is January 18th. So we will know by next week at the latest if Josh Connerly is in fact going to the NFL draft. I will say I'm a little surprised it hasn't happened now. I'm not sure what he's waiting for, but there are a lot of things that go into that sort of decision. So I'm fully expecting it. I'm not suddenly getting my hopes up that Oregon came back and ponied up the NIL in a big way to keep him there as a starting left tackle. Maybe they did. I doubt it. I would love to be pleasantly surprised on that front, but not sitting around waiting for it right now. So, questions, thoughts, comments, anything, drop them in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, or become a Locked On Ducks insider to get priority mailbag access and a bunch of other perks as well. You can become that in the description below. There's this link. You click on it, you get a free 14-day trial. If you don't like it, by all means, cancel. No hard feelings. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, go Ducks.